Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Chinezeslife. For those of you who may be new to my channel, and if you're a returning subscriber, first of all, welcome, and I definitely appreciate you for taking the time out to watch this video. If this is your first time watching this type of content on my channel, what I'll be doing is reviewing the latest episode of Insecure and giving my in-depth recap / review on it. This past episode was the season finale, Low-Key Lost, so there's so much to discuss, so much for what's next. And guys, I just want to give a warning to those of you who may not have watched this past episode or not even this season period. There are going to be spoilers in this video as I will be discussing in depth. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into season 4, episode 10, the season finale of Insecure, Low-Key Lost. So guys, this episode opens up with Issa at a farmer's market, and it seems as if she's waiting for someone, and we later find out that she was waiting to link up with Lawrence, and he has some news to tell her. He got the job, y'all. So now I'm thinking like, wow, that's great. Like, he's describing all the benefits that he's gonna have. He's gonna have his own assistant. He's gonna have his own corner office. All of these great perks that really, especially for him, this is like such a monumental thing. Because again, like, he's realizing that he works better in teams and that, you know, this is finally his opportunity to kind of like, you know, like be a part of that team like further and not even go into that other route. But the point is, it's now I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, this is great for Lawrence, you know? But what does this mean for his relationship with Issa? Like, are they gonna make long distance work? Like, is that an option? Or are they just gonna call it quits without even trying? Issa basically reassures him that, you know, distance is not a deal breaker. And, you know, if things seem to progress, maybe she could even move in with him. And he was just kind of like, whoa, like, you're gonna leave behind your family, you're gonna leave behind your friends. And she's kind of like, yeah, you know, family will always be here. It's a 45-minute flight and I can make new friends. And then she's kind of like, yeah, I kind of need to, which still lets us know that, you know, that whole beef between her and Molly is still unresolved. And then we do have this sort of like pause moment where I guess maybe they're both just processing what both have just said, because now it's kind of like, all right, Lawrence just basically accepted his job offer and Issa's saying that she'll be okay with the distance, but it's like, you never know, like only time can tell. And Issa really just gets real. She's literally like, you know what, Lawrence, like, I'm at a place where I just kind of want to cut out like all the BS out of my life and I only want to surround myself with things and people that make me happy. And she's like, you're one of them, y'all. I was just like, oh, look at Issa just, you know, being communicative, saying what's on her mind, saying how she feels. And she basically ends her statement off being like, you know, if we want this to work, it'll work. And Lawrence gives that reassurance yet again. He's like, cool, you know, because I want this to work too. And I'm just like, yes. At this point, I'm just thinking, I'm like, yo, Issa's probably on cloud 9 right now. Like, this thing with Lawrence seems to be working out. She seems to be progressing in her career. So it's just like, so many things are falling into place, or so it seems. But let me not spoil anything because we will get deeper into the episode, don't you worry. So now we fast forward to Molly out at what seems like a work mixer, a work event. And y'all, I've never worked in like, I guess like a corporate sense or whatever the case may be. So I was so jealous because like that's when people be having like the Christmas parties or just like a happy hour with their work team. So listen, this is a PSA to my friends or whoever wants to invite me out to their little work mixer. Those be looking mad fun because it's a bunch of professional people getting lit on the company because the drinks is free. But anyways, we fast forward to Molly at her firm's happy hour mixer event thingy, and she brought Andrew with her, which I liked. So they're just talking amongst each other. It seems like he's trying to find out who Torian is, and he's just going through like each of the people and finally finds him. But then one of Molly's coworkers, BJ, so that's the younger, attractive guy or whatever the case may be, he comes over and he's basically like, oh, hey, Molly. Like, Molly's like, oh, this is Andrew. I found it interesting, though, how she didn't say this is my boyfriend, Andrew. But maybe I'm thinking like, oh, you know, like maybe she's mentioned that she has a boyfriend before. So maybe, I don't know. I just found it weird that she wasn't like, oh, hey, this is my boyfriend, Andrew. But basically, BJ's like, oh, hey, a bunch of us are going to XYZ restaurant after this if y'all want to tag along. Molly says yes, Andrew says, oh no, we're good, kind of at the same time. And they both kind of just look at each other and it's like, oh, it was kind of an awkward moment because BJ's still there. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna just catch y'all there, like just let me know or whatever. But it seems as if Andrew is, you know, trying to go home, but Molly is trying to not go home. She's trying to continue on the fun. So Molly's basically able to convince Andrew, although he doesn't seem like too put off by it. He's just kind of like, all right, fine. Because I believe that she's like, oh, like I'll get them to play some of the music of your artist, da da da, this and that. I would have been like, listen, still, if I'm not trying to go, I'm not trying to go. But Andrew, I feel like he's a very compromising person, so he just ends up being like, you know what, fine, whatever, that's cool. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the barbershop scene where basically Issa is going to go and see Nathan and to see the spot in the back that he said that he got for her. So I was definitely like looking forward to seeing that. I feel like that's an OD nice thing to be able to hold down, and that just shows you like how far connections go, because who knew that a barbershop would have an extra room in the back, and now you as like an event organizer can basically use your friends, work hand in hand, work together. But anyways, basically Nathan takes her to the back, and y'all, can we just talk about the way that he looks at her? Like, even when he's just talking to her, like, he's not even trying to do the most, but like it just flows. Like, you could tell that there's some connection there. Even if it is a friendly connection, I just feel like he has those eyes that like when he looks at you, he's just like looking into your soul. But that's besides the point, y'all. We're getting off topic already, because just something that I love about Nathan is how open and transparent he is, because he went from like basically joking with Issa and them just talking to basically bringing up something serious that was really just on his mind at the time. And he basically told Issa, you know, like, I apologize for the comments that I had made about your boyfriend. And I really like how he was just really upfront with how he was feeling and what he had wanted to say, because he was basically like, hey, like, you know, I wanted to apologize for the comments that I had made about your ex. It's really just more so, you know, like, I was going through something, and then it's like now seeing you back with him, it's just kind of like, it messed with him more than he had thought that it would. And I feel like that takes a lot for someone to admit. That makes it seem like Issa's kind of the one that got away in a sense, because it's like, damn, like, had I not had messed up, like, what if we were together right now? And I think him just seeing her go back to someone who he kind of thought that she didn't really have a future with, just kind of like messed with his head. And then Issa kind of lets him know, like, you know, that wasn't my intention at all in telling you. I'm just trying to be a good friend to you. And she's basically kind of like, you know, I just thought that that's something that you should know. And I hope that that's not too much. And then I was just like, damn, like, I hope this isn't the end of their friendship. I don't know about y'all, but I'm low-key the type of person, it's kind of like, depending on how it ends, I'll say that. But for the most part, I feel like for me, like 9.5 times out of 10, if we did not work out romantically and we did not have a pre-existing friendship, we cannot be friends after, you know what I'm saying? So for Nathan to kind of have that space of having Issa as a friend, I feel as though he kind of was able to separate his feelings for her, or his past feelings for her, and kind of embrace this new feeling of her as a friend. So this was just more so him just being upfront with how he was feeling and just kind of clearing the air, versus like, you know, holding this feeling back and Issa having no idea and him just kind of feeling played or whatever. So I do again commend him, because that's a very mature thing to do, to kind of be upfront with, like, you know, realizing that you messed up, but then also realizing that it's probably too late for that chance, but then still being like, hey, but you know, I just wanted to get this off my chest, be honest with you, and that's really it. Like, you know, now like we could go back to being cool, like, I don't gotta be thinking about this all day, you already know what was up, but now I'm good with being friends, like, that's fine. So after all this is said, I love how Issa and Nathan are basically able to transition back into a fun and playful conversation, and that's definitely one of the things that I appreciate about their relationship so much, even as a friendship. It's just that they can be open and honest, but then still go back to kicking it like it's cool, like basically like nothing had happened. So next up, we fast forward to Molly and Andrew coming back to Molly's place, and y'all, I'm not gonna hold you, I was waiting for this moment, because you could visibly see that Andrew is like fed up. Like, Molly, the way that they came into the scene, it's kind of like Molly's just all giddy, putting her coat away, but then Andrew's just kind of doing that slow walk, like he's about to deliver the heat or something. And basically Molly's like, oh, hey, like, did you have fun or whatever? And she's like still, you know, putting her stuff away, and he's just like, And I would have known off rip with that dry, like, something's up. What you mean, And again, in this moment, you can kind of tell that Andrew, it seems as if he doesn't like to bring things up sometimes, just because he knows it's gonna be like this whole big thing. So that was probably like the comment, like just being like, oh, like, will she even pick up on this? But anyways, he sits down and he's kind of like, oh, hey, like, let's watch Looking for LaToya, the reunion's on. And I also haven't watched because I've been waiting like for your schedule or for our schedules to mesh so that we can finally watch together. But then Molly's just kind of like, oh no, like, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep, whatever, which technically may sometimes be fine, but I think in this moment, Andrew was just kind of like, all right, like, oh, I'll just go ahead and watch it. But then she's like, no, don't watch without me. But I'm just like, sis, you can't be serious. you saying you about to go to sleep and he can't watch the show? Like, he's like, I'm not gonna spoil it. Like, I get her not wanting him to watch it without her, but at the same time, it's like he's gone so long without watching it with you. I feel like it's the principle. Like, I feel like that's kind of selfish on her end, because it's like he's been waiting for you to watch the show with you. Like, again, I know that was just a little thing, but again, to Andrew, this is probably like another thing to add on to the list. So Andrew basically complies, but not without an attitude, a little bit of attitude, because he was just like, oh, of course, like, we'll just do it on your time, like we do everything. And then Molly finally picks up on the signals and is just like, wait, what? Like, what did you say? Andrew's then like, if it were me who had wanted to stay out longer, like, you would have had a whole issue with it. But then Molly's just kind of like, wait, what? Like, that's not true, da-da-da, this and that, kind of like being defensive about it versus like actually listening to what he has to say. So to Molly's defense, she's basically then like, you know, when I was working late, it was an issue. But now that, you know, I kind of have more free time and I do have a work event, but like I'm inviting you to it and, you know, we're still spending time together, like that's still an issue. And then Andrew's basically like, every time I bring up something that bothers me, like you basically dismiss it, but then you expect me to bend over backwards for you. And then again, Molly's kind of getting defensive. And guys, I'm not blaming Molly for getting defensive in a sense, if that makes sense, because I understand where she may be coming from, but also at the same time, I low-key don't, because it's like, that just shows that sometimes people can be behaving in a certain way, and if they're not necessarily called out for it, then they may not be able to correct that behavior. So that is one thing that I do wish that Andrew would have said, more so like just being more vocal versus feeling like you're afraid to step on her toes because you don't want it to be this whole big thing, because that's the type of person that I am. Sorry guys, this is like a whole mini segue, but I just want to give like a real life example, because I'm that type of person too, that although difficult conversations are that they're difficult, I feel as though that they're necessary, because if they're not addressed, even like if they're little things on little things on little things turn into big things. And clearly that's now what Andrew is dealing with, because he wasn't able to properly like show Molly like the magnitude of what he was saying in the past before, basically. At least that's my understanding. So then Molly responds being like, when have you ever bent over backwards for me, da da da. And I'm just like, sis, like, don't do that. But then he's like, since we've met, like, and especially the situation with my brother, Molly's basically like, you know, he was being rude and disrespectful, and I thought that we had moved past this anyway, like, why are you bringing it up again? And then in that moment, my thoughts were, it's kind of like, you're saying that I thought that we had moved on for that, but you didn't necessarily create an action plan as to, okay, like if Victor were to call or would want to talk to me on the phone, like, you know, I'd be open to it. It's just kind of like she shut down the idea of the game and just kind of left it at that and kind of left it stagnant. But to Andrew, it's like, you're saying that you know, that you thought that situation was over, but how can that be over when that's someone who's gonna be in my life forever, you know? Like, you didn't even create an action plan. So I can see why he brought that up again, because it's kind of like, Molly, like, you can't say that that situation is over when it's still unresolved. Like, yes, you're still taking that time to process everything and to heal or whatever the case may be. But then she's basically telling him like, oh, like, you're always holding on to shit. But I'm just like, sis, like, you are queen of holding on to your belongings, holding on to your things, because not only Andrew has told you that, Issa has told you that, and Dr. Rhonda has told you that, and then you was the one that was telling her that you have an issue with letting things go. So it's just kind of like, how you pointing the finger when the finger is pointing right back on you, you know what I'm saying? And that's basically what Andrew says too, because he's like, I'm holding on to shit, like, Molly, you never let shit go. And I was just like, drag her to filth, sir, drag her to filth. Because again, I think that sometimes someone repeating something to you that you probably already know, and then in this moment it's kind of like Andrew's just at that last straw, because he's basically like, Molly, you know, I do whatever you want, wherever you want to go, whatever things you want to do, like, I do it. Again, as this is all going on, Molly's phone starts to ring again, and she basically picks up being like, what, Kelly? And then the next scene, boom, Molly, Kelly, Issa, Derrick are all at Tiffany's house. Basically, Tiffany has now gone missing, and they're trying to find her. They're trying to locate her. She's been gone since last night, and now it's the whole brand new next day. And Derrick is basically freaking out, as he should be, because it's kind of like, dang, like, she checked in with me, but I haven't heard from her all day now. Like, I'm starting to get worried. So he decided to call on Issa and her friends. So Derrick basically announces to the group that he's gonna go and find her, and one by one, everyone starts tagging along. And also, something to note too was that when Molly had entered the scene, basically Issa was already there, Kelly was already there, Derrick was there, obviously. but it's just kind of like Molly was getting what was going on from Issa. And again, like the last time that they spoke was that whole exchange in front of Molly's house. And again, the last time that they spoke was that whole exchange, that whole, you know, maybe we're better off not being friends talk in front of Andrew's house. So for them to now be brought together by a mutual friend, and then kind of again like having that sentiment being like, all right, well, we're here for the friends, so like let's just talk. You could still tell that it was kind of like weird vibes between them, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, all right, like they put all the pettiness to the side, they put all the drama to the side. Now the goal is let's go and find Tiffany. So guys, this gets serious because they basically turn into a whole search party, like private investigators, all that. They split up once they get to the movie theater, which is apparently where she had gone the night before, basically just trying to find any clues as to where she could have gone. And again, we see another moment where everyone kind of splits up, leaving Issa and Molly behind. And then they're both just kind of like, oh, do you want to go speak to, I believe it was like someone upstairs or someone downstairs. Basically, there was two places to target, and they're like, oh, you know, maybe it's best that we split up. And then I was just like, you see the split up, like, why did it have to be just them two? Like, I liked how the writers included that in there, so I was like, okay. So while at the theaters, Kelly does notice that there's a bar on the premises, and then in her head, she's probably thinking like, damn, like maybe Tiffany got some drinks last night. Let's go and talk to the bartender. So basically, they're able to find out that she was indeed at that bar the night before, and she did order a few margaritas, and then she was kind of like very lit. So then she took an Uber somewhere, basically. So that was definitely some good information to know, because basically by knowing that she had ordered margaritas, it led Issa to telling a story about Cinco de Mayo. Basically, Molly had wanted to spend her birthday somewhere, wasn't able to go. And then in turn, everyone ended up going out for like tacos and margaritas for her birthday. And it turns out that one of the restaurants that they went to, Guisados, is somewhere that you would go, you know, after having a margarita, or somewhere that you would go to get a margarita. Now that they know that she took a Lyft, Derrick is basically remembering like, oh yeah, I did see a Lyft charge on my account. And basically by the dollar amount, we're able to then figure out, well, Issa is able to then figure out, you know, since she is a Lyft driver, she's able to figure out like, oh wait, she probably went to Guisados. Like that would make a lot of sense. It was $6 charge. Okay, I know based on, you know, because of course she's used to all the numbers and everything like that on the Lyft technical side. So they're able to find out that she may have went to this restaurant Guisados, which is, I believe, 2 miles away. So again, that's their next destination. So they all round up and all head over to that restaurant. So they all arrive at the restaurant, and now they're basically asking the host like, oh, did you see a woman that looked like this, that came in at around this time the other day, whatever the case may be. And basically he's like, listen, like I don't take this job serious, like I don't even care, like I be having tunnel vision when people come in. And I feel like I can definitely relate to that, because we've all had those jobs where it's just kind of like you're there but you're not really present like mentally. So I can definitely relate to that. But anyways, they basically demand to see the security tapes, and at first the host is not jacking it. He's like, listen, like we don't usually do that. But Kelly went ham in this episode. I loved Kelly in this episode, because this is, again, Tiffany is the closest to Kelly. So to her, she's like, listen, like this is my best friend. I'm about to do anything for her. Like we need to see those tapes. We need to see those tapes. And basically with that persuasion, they were able to see that Tiffany was indeed at the restaurant the night before. And then with the help of the tapes, they were also able to see that she did get onto a bus. And to everyone, it's just kind of like, a bus? Like, why is she on a bus? Like, what's going on? Because again, like Tiffany's not, she's definitely like the bougie type. So for her to be on a city bus is just kind of like, whoa, like what's going on here? And with the timing of the security tapes and everything, Derrick is also able to realize like, like Tiffany definitely like called me after she had left this restaurant, after she had gotten onto the bus. So she might not have been too far off. Like maybe she had stopped at a hotel or something like that. So they all go ahead and get on the bus, and they're kind of just sitting there like being like, dang, like hopefully we pass by a hotel and like hopefully we're able to find her. And in this moment, you can kind of see that like Derrick is like now very quiet. Like you could tell that he's like stressed. And now like he just starts venting basically Molly and Issa. He's separating Molly and Issa, so he's in between the two of them. He's basically like, you know, like I knew she wasn't happy, but you know, I just thought that time would fix it. And, you know, like I thought that I was doing, you know, I was helping out with like the baby and everything, but it just wasn't enough. And he kind of, you can see that like he's kind of like blaming himself for like everything that has now happened with Tiff. He basically continues and is like, you know, I can't believe I let this happen. And in that moment, I was just like, dang, like this is sad. Like that was some good acting. Like that almost made me want to tear up. Because sometimes it is like that. Like, people can do things and like you're thinking to yourself like, damn, like what could I have done different to prevent this? But at the end of the day, something that you always have to remind yourself is that people are gonna do what they want to do at the end of the day, and that you cannot like place blame on yourself in a sense, because it's like you tried to help her, you know, you did try, so it's not like you weren't trying, you were just letting things slide by, which is kind of what Issa tells him, being like, you know what, Derrick, like, no, like, don't even say that, like, you're a good dad, like, you look at you, you're out here, you're trying to find her, you even put on some baby weight too, or post baby weight, and he's just like, she's like, yeah, like 5 pounds, he's like, oh, actually 15, but he's just like, you know, like, you look good still. And the best piece of advice that she kind of left him with was being like, you know, like, none of us are perfect, we're all just trying to figure it out. And I feel like that's something so important too, because you definitely have to give yourself grace in so many situations, just being like, listen, like, this life thing is not a walk in the park, it's not easy, and especially for him too, like, he's a first-time father, he's a recent person who just got married, and again, they didn't even plan to have this baby, so I can definitely see for someone like Tiffany, who, like, they definitely did want kids down the line, but they just never expected it for it to be so soon, so it probably is overwhelming, and to her, she probably just really needed an escape. And to him, like, he cannot take that personally. He can't put that on himself, because she did tell him, like, oh yeah, like, I was gonna, like, you know, head out or whatever, but she was just supposed to be back home. And to her, it's just kind of like, you know, maybe I just needed one more day of escapism, basically. And as Issa basically talks to Derrick and kind of reassures him that, you know, things will be okay, as Issa basically finishes up talking to Derrick, like, reassures him that things will be okay, we can kind of see that Molly is, like, listening to what Issa's saying as well. And then she's also, you know, able to reassure him, being like, you know what, we're gonna do whatever it takes, okay? So now we see that Kelly is on the phone, and there's a white man seated next to her, basically being like, psst, psst, like, trying to get her attention, but you could clearly see, like, she's not giving him the time of day. She's just kind of like, he's all in her ear. Like, first of all, I just hate when people do that, because it's kind of like, you can see I'm on the phone, so my thinking, I'm like, you better have something important to say, like, why are you bothering me? We're on a public bus, I don't know you, and you're all in my ear. But he basically lets her know, being like, oh, I just wanted to let you know that, like, you're the inner black woman, like, inside of me, like, she looks like you, or something like that. I'm just like, bruh. And Kelly, of course, being Kelly, just being great, being awesome, being fierce and all that, she's just like, well, you know what? My outer black woman wants you to shut up. And the guy gets mad offended, basically being like, hey, everyone, like, she's on the phone, everyone. And then as all of this is happening, Kelly's basically able to find out that it's confirmed that Tiffany's staying at one of the Sheraton hotels, I believe. The only issue that is in their way now, aside from finally, like, you know, finding Tiffany going into the hotel room and everything, is now trying to get off the bus, because basically the bus driver is like, oh, I can't stop the bus unless it's at a designated stop area, da-da-da. But the thing is that a red light is basically coming up, so it's just kind of like, you could just let us out real quick, like, you know, you could just hold it down. And listen, sometimes people are gonna enforce the rules, sometimes they're not. But in this case, like, the bus driver was not with it at all. He's like, nope, like, y'all better not press that button. And then Kelly's like, what you gonna do if I press it? And Kelly, Issa's hyping her in the back, like, press it, press it. So Kelly goes ahead and presses the button. I love her for doing that, because listen, like, again, Tiffany's her best friend. Like, she was trying to get down to the business. She was not playing games. She's like, listen, like, my friend is in that hotel. We gotta go ASAP. We're not about to wait and then have to walk even longer. We know that she's in there. Anyways, as they're about to approach into the hotel, basically, Kelly or someone's basically like, oh, like, look, right there. And basically at the same time, you hear another voice being like, oh, that's them right there. And I'm just like, I know that is not that man from the bus. And it is. So the same guy who was telling Kelly, like, oh, you're like my inner black woman, da-da-da, he's over here like, yes, officer, that's them right there. I said, wow, that's how you gonna do us? And I feel like, especially given the circumstances of everything that's going on right now, that definitely just shows you that sometimes, like, people be so down for the culture, be so, oh, you're my inner black woman, da-da-da, but then be so quick to just flip on you and report you, like you wasn't just cool with them in the bus. I said, wow, that's crazy. So the officer basically asks Kelly, like, ma'am, did you harass this man? And Kelly, you know, she's already feeling a lot of emotions right now, because she's basically like, no, I didn't, but I can. And basically at this moment, you can see the officer kind of like grips his side, which I'm thinking, I'm like, I hope he's not grabbing a gun. I hope he's not grabbing a taser. And it's crazy how obviously this was filmed months and months ago, but we can clearly see that, like, this is so relevant with what's going on in today's day and age, and just in general, the policing of Black people, like how something as simple as, you know, like, were you harassing him, yes or no, like you were being mad calm with them, but when it comes to me, you want to, you know, get your weapon or whatever. So that was definitely something to point out too, because everyone was just like, whoa, whoa. And then we see in this moment that Derrick kind of steps forward and tries to de-escalate the situation, basically being like, hey, like, you know, my wife is in that hotel, like we've been looking for her all night, we're just trying to go into the hotel, like that's all we don't want no problems, or whatever the case may be. And then Molly kind of steps in being like, hey officer, I'm an attorney, is this about, you know, like race or anything like that? And kind of in that moment, once the officer sees what type of time, like, you know, he's just like, you know what, forget about it, everyone go home. Like, he's like, not me, not today. And I think that that was definitely like an important moment, because he's just kind of thinking like, I'm thinking like, does he mean like not me, not today, as in like he's not even dealing with this right now? Or was it because Molly brought up like the issue of race? Like, and as they're walking away, finally being able to approach the hotel, we hear the white man basically being like, ugh, tragic. And then Kelly hears him, and you know, Kelly is ready to clap back. She's like, wait, what did you say? And you can hear that they're going back and forth at it, but basically like people is pulling each other back, like, come on, let's go handle our business. The police is basically trying to separate the two, and again, you can kind of see that both parties are just over it. So they basically get to the room that Tiffany is apparently staying at, and basically in this moment, like, everyone was walking mad fast, but then obviously Derrick is going to be the first one to go in to talk to Tiffany, and you can kind of see that he starts to like slow down his stride, and Kelly picks up on that, and she's just like, hey, like, are you okay? And to him, he's just kind of like, you know, like, I'm just hoping that she's okay. And to me, y'all, in this moment, I'm thinking, I'm like, yo, what is Tiffany up to? Like, is she really just gonna be in the room chilling? Like, is she gonna be drunk? Is she gonna be like cracked out? Is she gonna be like sleeping with somebody? Because I'm really thinking, I'm like, we just spend mad time of this episode trying to figure out where Tiffany is at. And of course, well, I don't want anything like extremely crazy or bad to happen to her. It's just kind of like there had to have been this like really big buildup for some reason, right? So Derrick basically goes ahead and finally, you know, gathers his strength to knock, and Tiffany answers, and she's like, who is it? And he's like, it's me. And she takes a minute to get to the door. So again, this is me thinking, I'm like, damn, like, is she moving stuff around? Like, does she have to hide something or someone? But she just opens the door, and you know, she got wet hair, so it looked like she maybe just got out the shower or something. And Derrick is basically just like, baby, like, what's going on? And she basically responds being like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't know what else to do. And they just kind of just have their moment. You can see that Kelly and Issa and Molly are in the back, just like visibly like also going through it. And then we see that Derrick and Tiffany just kind of hold and embrace each other. She just keeps on telling him how sorry that she is, and he's just holding her. And I feel like that was a very important moment. I did like the approach that Derrick took, because again, like, you could genuinely see that he was like concerned for her well-being over everything. Like, if anything, they can talk about like the deeper stuff later, but in that moment he really just wanted to make sure that she was okay. And I feel like in certain situations like that, some people can react in such a negative way, or like come like yelling and like screaming at the person, and so like you kind of have to approach situations how you would want situations to be towards you, you know what I'm saying? So in this moment, I think that Derrick, again, like, he just cared that, you know, she was okay, that nothing had happened to her, that she was like, you know, like alive basically, because he was just so worried that he's like, damn, like, I was scared that something had happened to you, you know, I'm just happy that you're okay. But like, I feel like they're gonna have a long, deep conversation as to like what actually happened, like what led to this, what can I do better, how can I be better to you? And at the end of the day, that's gonna make the relationship better. And even for Tiffany to see how Derrick was able to approach her in that moment will definitely like reassure her, like, you know, like, I married this really good man, like, he's a really great dad, you know? Because again, like, there's nothing wrong with what Tiffany had done, for the certain fact that it's kind of like she's going through a lot, and sometimes you do need that escape. Now, while obviously she could have like kept him more updated and like, you know, not turned off her phone or whatever, it's just kind of like, it kind of just shows how desperate she was. And I'm really curious if they're going to explore that more in the next season, basically being like what actually led to the buildup of Tiffany getting like this. So now that Tiffany has been found, basically everyone parts their ways and goes back home, or whatever the case may be. And now we see that Andrew and Molly are able to basically link up again. And Andrew basically asks, you know, like, how's Tiffany, how's she doing? And Molly's like, you know, like, it was a little rough, but you know, she'll be okay, or whatever the case may be. And then Molly's just kind of like, you know, like we didn't finish our conversation, and Andrew's kind of on the type of time being like, you know, like I know you've had a long night, like we could talk about it tomorrow or whatever the case may be. But you could tell that like Molly isn't trying to let it go, because she's more so like, you know, like I don't want us to go to bed like this. Like I think that we should just work it out now, because if we wait until the morning, you know, like things might get worse. And while Molly definitely does have a point, sometimes you do need to sleep on certain things and sometimes you don't. Like if both parties feel ready and up for the conversation, then sure. But I feel like as long as they're both going to sleep knowing that, you know, like we're not just gonna let this blow over, it will get addressed. But clearly in this moment we can kind of see that Molly is like so ready to talk about it that Andrew's just kind of like, all right, like let's talk. And just with like Andrew's demeanor as a whole and his tone of voice, you could tell that he was like very serious about what he was about to say. Andrew's basically like, you know, like I feel like we're not on the same page. And then Molly's basically like, you know, like I agree, I should have went with you to the game or whatever. And he's telling her like, Molly, like this isn't about the game, like this isn't about just my brother, this is way bigger than that. He basically tells her, you know, like I've been feeling this way for a while now, and what if it's because, you know, we're just not a good match. And Molly in this sense, like y'all, like she starts to, you could see the pain in her eyes, because she's just like, no, like we are a good match, like we've made it this far, none of us have made it this far before, so you know, like that has to mean something, right? Just because something is long lasting doesn't mean that it has like a strong foundation and that it's necessarily built to last. Because people stay in marriages that be trash for 20 years but just don't get divorced until the 20th year just because. But you can kind of tell in this sense Andrew's just kind of tired and is just kind of like over it though. Like, yeah, I realize that, but I feel like it shouldn't be this hard. And Molly's like, oh no, like I'll change, like we can go to therapy, like I'll do this, I'll do that. But it's just kind of like, will you though? Like, you know? And I definitely do understand like her wanting to fight for the relationship, because she's just kind of like, you know, like, so that's it, like you're just gonna give up, like I'll do therapy, like we can go to couples therapy, like, you know, we can like work things out, we can make this work, like let's fight for this. And Andrew in this moment, he low-key cuts her off, but he's basically like, you know, like just stop, like forget about the time, forget about all the things that we've done. What exactly are you fighting for? Like, is this really what you want? And in this moment, like Molly, like her face, like she looks like she's about to cry, but she doesn't say anything, at least not that we're able to hear. And that definitely confused me a bit, because it's like, what was she fighting for? I feel like in this sense, it kind of made it seem like she was fighting for the relationship, but not necessarily like a relationship with him. Like she was just being like, you know, like it's never lasted this long before and da-da-da and this and that, but it's just kind of like, it's not healthy right now. And it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm willing to make it work if it's been going on for this long, and if it's been so hard for this long. Like this is the beginning stages, it should not be this hard in the beginning, you know? And I definitely understand Andrew when he says that, because it's so true. It's kind of like, if we're already dealing with all of this, and if I'm already picking up on patterns that I don't like, it's kind of like, what's the point of being in this if I really don't feel satisfied, if I really don't feel like you saying you're gonna change is gonna bring about a change, and if I'm really just genuinely unhappy, because that's really what it seems like with Andrew. Like to him, he's like, he's been feeling this way for a while. Andrew's basically like, you know, like he's been feeling this way for a while, which kind of makes you think like, dang, like he's probably been wanting to end this, what was probably thinking in the back of his head, like, you know, like maybe she'll change, maybe it'll be different. But again, I do wish that he had like been more vocal about what exactly was bothering him, kind of giving her a better opportunity to change. But although I do feel like he did say a good amount, especially concerning the situation with his brother, I do feel as though that was one of the key points, because it's kind of like, yes, he knows that his brother messed up, but again, she didn't really take any initiative to be like, you know, like I do know, I acknowledge that he messed up, and I do acknowledge that he's trying to, you know, get back into my life. But at the same time, it's like she's not taking it as serious as Andrew is, and at the end of the day, like that's something that's gonna constantly be on his mind. So we leave that scene basically assuming that Molly and Andrew are no more. And y'all, while I was, you know, I was definitely happy for Andrew, in this moment I did kind of feel sad for Molly, because think about it, like she's lost her best friend, and now she's lost her boyfriend, and the same boyfriend is kind of the person who has created one of the more big issues between her and her best friend. So it's just kind of like, dang, like the whole reason, not the sole reason, but one of the reasons why you and Issa aren't even talking anymore is because of the situation with her going behind your back to Andrew regarding the block party and everything, and now Andrew's not in your life either. So in this point, it's just kind of like, dang, like Molly low-key has no one, you know? So we then fast forward to one of the last scenes of the season. Isn't that crazy? I was gonna say of the episode, but it is of the season. But basically, Lawrence comes over to Issa's place, and you can kind of pick up on like his body language that like he's about to say something. But I'm like, nah, there's no way. It can't be. Cause y'all know I've been saying that, you know, I think that Condoleezza, whatever you want to call her, is pregnant. But anyways, basically Lawrence, you know, Issa tells like a joke or something, and then he doesn't laugh, and she looks up and can see like this was such great acting, just everything was perfect, because his eyes, like in those eyes you could tell like he's stressed, like what he's about to say, like he don't even want to say this, and he basically lets Issa know that, you know, like Condole came over last night, and Issa's just kind of waiting for him to spit out what he has to say, and she's like, okay. And then Lawrence is like, she needed to talk. And then at this point we get to see that it kind of pans back and forth between Lawrence and Condole, and then Lawrence and Issa, and basically, you know, we find out that Condole is pregnant, and that, you know, she wants to keep the baby. And basically this is news to obviously Lawrence, because Lawrence is basically like, you know, I thought we were careful, like, are you even sure that it's mine? And Condole is like, yes, like, I'm sure. We just pan back, like Issa's basically asking him like, how did this happen? Like, when was this? Like, is it yours or whatever? Is she gonna keep it? And we're just getting all this information, and basically what it comes down to is that yes, the baby is Lawrence's. Condole wants to keep it. This had happened before him and Issa had gotten back together, and before he had taken the job and everything like that. So now it's just kind of like, that was probably one of the last times that Lawrence and Condole slept together, right before he got with Issa. But now Issa's thinking like, damn, like what is this supposed to mean for us? You know, like you're about to move, and now you have a baby on the way with your ex basically, and it's like, where does that leave me and you? And Lawrence, like, you could tell, like he clearly, like he did not want this baby, like he didn't plan for this, obviously, because that's kind of what he's telling Condole. He's like, we're not even together, like how is this supposed to work? Like I don't want this. And I felt for him in that moment, because it's like, it's such a touchy topic, and it's such a hard, like I feel like at the end of the day there's not one set of rules to follow when it comes to unplanned pregnancies, especially with someone who you don't even see yourself having a family with. Because to Lawrence, in that sense, he's like, why are you keeping it? Like, why? Like, what is the purpose of that? But then Condole basically lets him know, being like, you know, like with my ex-husband, basically, I wasn't ready then. So in that sense, it's kind of like she's insinuating that maybe she had an abortion in the past when she was with her husband, but now she's ready. And, you know, she is getting older, and, you know, she is well off, so she monetarily can provide for this child. But obviously her and Lawrence aren't together, and she's even telling Lawrence, you know, like, this isn't my ideal situation either, but abortion, basically, like, that's not an option for me. So it's kind of like Condole has already made up her mind as to keeping this child, and she's just making Lawrence to be aware of the situation, which in this case, I feel as though she handled the situation appropriately, because at the end of the day, yes, like, I do believe that the guy should have some influence to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, like, this isn't, like, they're not teenagers, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that it's a life that's being brought into the world, but clearly Condole, like, is not for having another abortion, because it seems like she had an abortion in the past. And those type of things, like, it sticks with you. Like, if you have one, like, that does a toll on you, like, mentally, emotionally, like, physically even, all of those things. And again, like, Condole is getting older, and she's probably thinking, like, dang, like, if I abort this child now again, and I'm never able to have a child, like, I know I'm gonna regret it. But also it's hard, because it's like, damn, like, I know that I'm not even with this guy, and I know that he doesn't even want this, but I feel like I can't do that to myself. But I know that it's also like kind of a selfish decision in a sense, because at the end of the day, like, yes, it is her body that the child is like growing in and all of that, but at the end of the day, it took two people to make the child. So it's just, it's just a lot. What I do appreciate, though, is that the fact that she was able to come and talk to him, sit him down, let him know this in person, versus some girls will just have the baby and then be like, here, take a paternity test, like, it's yours or whatever, or just be like, here, child support. So she let him know that, being like, you know, you can be as involved as you want to be, or, you know, as little involved. But then that also puts Lawrence in a hard place, because it's like, nobody wants to be a deadbeat dad, you know, but then it's also like, damn, like, I didn't ask to be a father either. Like, I wasn't prepared to be a father. I'm about to start a whole new career, you know. So it's just kind of like, damn, like, Lawrence, like, oh man, this is such a crazy situation, because it's like, what, like, And imagine Condola is the same person who told him that she wasn't ready for a relationship. So it's like, you weren't ready for a relationship with me, but now you're ready for a baby with me? Like, how does that even work? And I can definitely see a lot of people were saying that on Twitter, which, by the way, guys, like, the timeline was so poppin' this past episode. Like, I was really in there, like, getting like, it was great. But anyways, basically, it's like Lawrence, like, dang, like, you can't even have a say in a sense, because it's kind of like, she's already set on keeping it. And I'm just like, wow, this is so crazy. And Issa is clearly, like, visibly, like, shocked, because she doesn't even know what to say. Like, what can you even say in that moment? You know, it's kind of like everything was going so good for them. Lawrence got a new job. They're finally, like, back on, like, steady terms. They agreed they're gonna do this whole long distance thing. And now he has a baby on the way with his ex. And it's like, where does that leave our relationship? So Issa basically poses a question to Lawrence, being like, so you're getting back with her? And Lawrence is like, no, like, I want to be with you. But then Issa's just like, how, if you're having a baby with her, like, how is this gonna work? And when you think about it, that is a pretty crazy situation, because it's like, yo, like, how am I gonna be in a relationship with you? Especially, I feel like the worst part is that Issa knows Condola personally. It would have been bad had it been anyone or whatever the case may be, but it's just the fact that that's his ex who he was presumably done with. So it's just like, damn, like, what's gonna happen now? And the pain in his eyes when he tells Issa that he's sorry, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I wanted to cry. Like, honestly, like, Lawrence was just so apologetic, because, like, what more can he say than he's sorry? Like, you know, like, he just wanted to let Issa know this, but it's just kind of like, there's nothing he can do about the situation, because it's kind of like, Condola made up her mind, like, she's not budging, and it's unfortunate that it has to come down to that, because at the end of the day, like, it's a whole child, you know? Like, it's not like it's just anything. Like, it's a child that's going to be yours forever, that's presumably might even have your last name. So it's just like, this changes everything, you know? It's not just something easy for Issa in that moment to be like, oh no, it's fine, like, we'll work it out. Like, that's a lot, because Issa literally goes like, this is too much, like, this is too much. And basically that's where we end off at the episode. Oh, I forgot that basically Issa, we discover that she has a balcony, because she's out on her balcony just like overviewing Los Angeles, just really just thinking about stuff. So we finally get to the last scene, and we see that it's Molly in a restaurant, and she's waiting for somebody, and then someone gets to the table, and we hear Molly be like, I'm glad that you came. And then we hear the voice, and it's Issa, and she's like, I'm glad that you called. And that's basically the end of the episode, and we get to see that they're actually at the Ethiopian spot as well. So again, that's that same place where they saw each other, they both saw each other but didn't talk to each other. And something that I saw on Twitter was that this was actually part of the first episode as well, of the first season, was them being at the Ethiopian spot. So I was just like, oh, okay, I see what y'all did there. And guys, like, given the situation that happened with Tiffany and everything, like, I can see why they linked up again. But at the same time, I just genuinely hope that next season, if we do get to hear this conversation, or if we do get to see their relationship progress, that it actually progresses, and that Molly actually takes accountability, and that they just kind of start out on a clean slate. Because I feel like so much was said, so much hurt, so much pain in these past few episodes as far as their interactions, and it's kind of like it was more so one-sided when they finally did start to kind of almost get back together. So I just really hope that Molly pulls her weight for this relationship, because it does kind of seem like, oh, of course, as soon as you and Andrew break up, like, now, you know, you want to get back with me. But then now for Issa as well, it's kind of like, dang, like, with her, Lawrence and her, that whole situation, it's like Molly would kind of understand best. So I do see why, like, you know, she's able to go back to that old thing. So again, I just hope that they're able to finally work out their differences, work out their issues, and truly see if this relationship is still serving both of them in the next season. So guys, that brings me to the end of the episode, and if I had to give it a rating, I'm sorry y'all, but I'm gonna have to give it like a 7 out of 10. Only I took off those 3 points because I felt as though Tiffany's storyline was like entirely too long. I feel like it took up almost a majority of the episode. And while I did like how they did, like, you know, delve deep into her, like, you know, probably this whole postpartum depression thing, I don't think that it needed to be that long. And I would like to have seen like a longer discussion with Andrew and Molly, and a longer discussion with Issa and Lawrence. But aside from that, the episode was great. I feel like we kind of answered all the questions that we had for this season, because I can't lie though, like, I was definitely the one being like, I wonder if they're gonna talk about Tiffany in this episode. I wonder if they're gonna talk about Tiffany. I wonder if Condola's gonna be pregnant. So it's like certain predictions that I had were definitely true. I just can't believe that it's like the last episode, you know? I feel as though we weren't really left with a cliffhanger, being that, you know, we kind of know the fate of what happened with all these people, whether it's the pregnancy or whether it's Issa and Molly linking up again. But I'm definitely like looking forward to next season. Hopefully it's coming within the next year, because I know that we had to wait 2 years for this episode. And again, of course, the music was popping, cinematography was popping. So overall, it was just a really great episode. Again, some of my favorite moments were the whole Issa and Nathan situation, where he was just able to be honest about how he was feeling with her. And then also another favorite was, of course, the Andrew and Molly scene. Although sad to see Molly like that desperate and begging for Andrew's hand, basically, I think that it was nice to see Andrew kind of finally put his foot down and kind of being like, you know, like, I don't think that this is a healthy situation anymore. Like, I don't think that we should be doing this. And I really liked how he was able to kind of being like, what are you really doing this for? Because that's important. Sometimes people are literally just in relationships just to say that they're in a relationship, but it's just kind of like, if it's not leading us anywhere, and if I'm this stressed out because of a relationship, like, do we really need to be in a relationship? So I definitely like how that whole thing was explored as well. And a conversation that definitely got the timeline going as well was the whole situation with Condole, like how she handled it, what certain people would have done in a certain situation. But again, I feel as though there's not one general consensus when it comes to abortion, because at the end of the day, like, everyone's choice is different, or everyone's circumstances are different. And some people can be wavering. Like, she could have been like, you know, I'm not sure if I want to keep it. What do you think? But she already came in with the mindset of keeping it. So again, like, in that situation, there was no changing her mind. Because I feel like we hear about that happening a lot of the times too. We hear about people getting abortions, but then telling the guy after the guy didn't even get to have an input. But then in this case, it's just kind of like she's telling him, yeah, I'm keeping it. You can be as involved or as not involved as you want. But it's just kind of like, this changes the course of his life forever, because now you literally have someone bearing your last name, you know? Like, you have a whole child who you're entitled to, you know, who you're basically responsible for caring for. And even though she's saying like, oh, like, you know, like, you can take care of him as much as you want to, or you can contribute as much as you want to, it is kind of just a sad and a situation that is just kind of like, damn, like, you know, because he obviously didn't want a situation like that for himself, but sometimes you literally just have to face the reality of things. So guys, that is all for today. Again, thank you so much for staying tuned with me throughout this whole season. Like, I cannot believe that we're at the end of these reviews, but definitely, okay. So guys, that brings me to the end of this review and to the end of the reviews and recaps for season 4 of Insecure. It's been a great ride. I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch each and every video. And if you haven't, make sure to go ahead and check out the rest of the videos. All 10 episodes, all in depth. Go rewatch all of that. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure to follow me over there at chinezeslife. And if you're not following me over on Twitter, make sure to catch me over there at chinezeslife. Also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure to pause this video and go ahead and click on the subscribe button. And also make sure to tap the bell so that you know when I am posting a new video. And guys, one of the shows that I love so much, which is Greenleaf, which is on OWN, is coming back Monday, June 23rd. And I thought to myself the other day, I'm like, wait a minute, this is about to be the final season of Greenleaf. I might as well transition over to Greenleaf as well. So you guys will be seeing some more reviews this time in Greenleaf. So if you guys don't watch that show, go ahead and check it out. Again, it's on the OWN network. Go ahead and get caught up before we get into the last season. As always, I appreciate the support, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.